Hi, everyone. My name is Mac, and I'm here with Eloi. And we wanted to take a minute to talk about the Apollo Pro. We are obviously in the process of launching our hyper scooter on Indiegogo, and we have had a number of conversations about the product on multiple platforms, but we never actually took the time to regroup all of these best insights, these best tidbits, and have them take place in one conversation. So that's what we wanted to do today. We wanted to take a few minutes and talk about the origins of the Pro, how it came to be, what really makes it unique, and ultimately, what does it mean for the big picture here at Apollo? So we got 12 questions that have been thoroughly vetted by our community that we wanted to ask our CTO, Eloi. Starting with the first one. How did the Pro come to be? How did the Pro come to be?
It was, I guess there's two aspects to that question. What inspired the Pro and why did we make it? What it's inspired it was different companies, design-wise. I remember when we were making the mood board about the Pro, that's putting a lot of different product that you like on the wall. Well, there was a Cybertruck there, and we were inspired by the light of the Cybertruck, at least on the first prototype that they showed, because now it changed quite a lot. So those beautiful lights, there was a finish of the Apple, the MacBook, the iPhone, but mostly the MacBook. We wanted those sharp edges on the scooter. It needed to feel special when you touch it. So all the material were very important. We didn't want any plastic on it. Again, like the MacBook, it's all metal, a solid piece of metal, to a point that on the first iteration of the Pro, even the throttles were CNC'd in aluminum, because we wanted that when you touch it, it was going to be cold to the touch. And after that, we realized that aluminum is just not reliable enough in the manufacturing way compared to plastic to make throttles. So now it's plastic, which is one of the only part of plastic on the scooter. And so that's how it started. This, and if we look more at the micro mobility industry, we were also very inspired by Bandmove. How everything is clean and simple, and with their technology like the IoT, anti-theft tracking that they offer to customers, like the peace of mind, all the way up to our new display, the dot display that is also inspired from their product. So that's what we inspired ourselves from. And why did we make it? Like all great product, it started from frustration. It's like if you look at Dyson, for example, it's his vacuum that was not vacuum sucking enough, so he decided to create a new one with his famous 5000 prototype. It was coming from frustration about our product, about the industry, about competitors' product. The fact that when we started Apollo, we were selling OEM product. So we're reselling Zero rebranded scooter. We're selling Mercane, Segway. So we had to differentiate ourselves with the marketing and even the customer service aspect behind it. But justifying why our product was better than another one that is literally coming from the same factory, it was so frustrating, because you're like, honestly, it's the same, maybe we can put a small touch about including a toolkit or things like that, but at the end of the day, it's the same product. So we wanted to do something radically different, and also that was going to address all the issues that we were seeing on those OEM products that we didn't have any word to say, because it was not our mold. It was not owned by Apollo, those mold of the parts. So
What happened in those situations if there was a problem with the
So let's say you own a recipe of a pizza, and I'm telling you, and you sell a million of those pizza, like Pizza Hut, for example, and I'm telling you, well, I don't like the tomato sauce or the tomato sauce. Well, you're gonna tell me, well, I'm already selling a bunch, like you're buying 10 pizza a year, so no, I'm not gonna change it for you, and
it's good enough.
It's good enough. It's good enough, and rightfully so, because they are selling millions of those scooters. The Zero scooters, it's probably one of the most sold scooter in the world after Xiaomi and Segways. So yeah, it's very hard, close to impossible. The only thing you can do is suggest improvement that maybe they're gonna change in a year or two from now. But at the pace that this industry is evolving, in 2 years, adding just a little safety clip, well, it's too late, and you already have 1,000 pieces on the market. So anyway, we needed to create our own, and we knew, or at least we thought that we knew, what needed to be done to have the perfect product. So that's why for the Pro, we went all out. We didn't look at how much it would cost to develop it or cost later on to make the actual product. And we just decided to go for the best of the best. And this was done through 6 iterations that we released on YouTube.
And what was it like being unconstrained by essentially budget, time, and having sort of a blank canvas to design a scooter? Why did you gravitate towards what the Pro is today?
I think at first it's very exciting because you can do pretty much anything you want, but then you realize that there's a lot more than just money that is limiting when you develop a product, like the partners that you choose to do it. I remember the Pro at first, we pitched it to our Phantom factory. So we have the Phantom factory and we have the new factory that we showed on YouTube, showing our assembly floor and everything, that is much, much more advanced, and they believe in Apollo a lot. They're going to invest a lot of time and money, and they also know all the right partners in Shenzhen to make a product like this happen. And yeah, I remember at first we pitched it to the Phantom factory and they were like, oh, it's impossible, you know, it's overwhelming. But they were like, yeah, sure. They were saying at the same time it was impossible, but that they could do it. And I cannot even imagine today if like they would have tried to do the Pro, it would have been a completely different product. And you see it. If you look at the Phantom and you look at the City, for example, the City, which is produced by the same factory as the Pro, there's a clear difference in aesthetic and refinement of the product. And the app is one of them. You know, like that technology aspect with the regen is probably the most visible difference that people can experience when they try a Phantom. And that's why we released a Phantom V3 that was made in Shenzhen, that controller. But yeah, to answer your question, is the partner is critical when you do a product like this. So the partners and the people making it, for the V1 of the Pro, people can go see the V1 compared to the V2. The difference between those two prototypes it's ridiculous. It's two different scooter completely. Internally it's made, everything about it is different. And the main difference behind the scene, what happened is that we switched the engineer working on it. We found a really talented engineer to make the first version, but the second one was someone that was so great that he had his own business and he's not really interested in money, he's interested in challenge. And when he saw the Pro, basically our factory was trying to hire him for a long time, but he was not interested. When he saw the Pro, he thought that was challenging enough for him to join the company. And now we are lucky to have him for the Pro, the Explore, and the Lite. So finding that individual, and there's a couple of individuals like this for controllers, for the electric system, for the IoT. When you find the right combination of people, that's how you achieve magic like this. So money is one thing, but people that's going to make the product and spend thousands of hours making it in overtime is really the deciding factor into if the product's going to be a success or not. And I think when we look at product like Rain or Scotsman, for example, that are on Indiegogo, well, they have a lot of Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunding platform. They have a lot of money on it. Often they're backed by gigantic company like Scotsman, that they made the Super Strata, a big bicycle, all 3D printed. Well, they have the money, but they don't have the team to execute. And I think for us, it was very much opposite. We were always able to achieve the impossible with very limited fun, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it didn't come at the expense of throwing money at a problem and just throwing and throwing and throwing until eventually it goes away. It came at the expense of hard work and dedication and blood, sweat, and tears in many cases to put together a product like this. And I think after the last trip to China in particular, we gained that perspective of, okay, we now see that this tiny component fits into this bigger subcomponent, which then gets mounted onto this part of the scooter, which then comes together in that way. I think the full complexity of the scooter takes a lot to appreciate, and you don't really get to see it unless you open the scooter and you see what's on the inside. So to your point, I think the people, the right infrastructure and ecosystem from a supply chain point of view, and then of course the theory, the engineering, the modeling of everything as well, and then lastly the testing, which we're going to get into in a bit as well.
We're looking there because the Pro is right there.
Yes, exactly.
People looking at this podcast.
And Randy too. So. Okay, so tell us more about the development process. You've already alluded to some of the important factors that go into making an amazing scooter, but why did we make it public?
Why did we make it public? I think that the most important thing that comes to my mind right now, one of the factor why we made it public is just because it's so interesting for people to see this. We put so much effort into it, and when you don't release any of the iteration process, people might think that well, they are wondering what you're doing. And you know, every day, like I often said that we should make a daily vlog at Apollo showing the struggle of the day to day, because every day there's a new problem and we need to find a solution to fix it. And showing the 6th iteration of the Pro was, I guess, an attempt to show just the amount of thought that go into a simple vehicle with 2 wheels that for most people is recreational. We wanted to show that. And when you bring the people with you in that journey, they're gonna feel a lot more compelled after that to believe in the company, to believe in the individual behind it, and explaining some of the controversial choice that we make, like the drum brake, the no display at first, those kind of things. When you bring them in that process with you, it seems a lot more of an evidence why we did that.
Yeah, and I think what you're alluding to there is essentially feedback as well.
Feedback.
Because when we're making such a big scooter for so long, it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, right? And sometimes you just get so stuck in this mindset of like, we need to make the suspension work, until somebody comes along and they're like, well, why don't you just put this type of suspension? And you're like, okay. And, you know, I think that refreshing perspective is very welcome, especially when projects like this take 2.5 years. And sometimes it's just pleasant to snap out of your day-to-day and get that kind of gut check from somebody else. And then the other point, I think, was that, to your point, we've gotten a lot of heat over the last few years over, you know, the city and late deliveries. And I think we wanted to also take this opportunity to show people that we do really care, that we are taking on really, really big challenges. And most companies would really be up for this. And we wanted, like you said, to bring people along on that journey and explain to them what it actually takes to make a scooter as complicated, as sophisticated as this. So it's a bit of a risk, because I think it does show the ugly and the bad, you know, the struggles and the kind of, in retrospect, ugly scooters, you know, when you compare the V1 to the V6. And obviously the V1, this is, you know, it's barely a scooter.
The amount of critique you get when you show the V1, people are like, what the fuck is that?
Yourself, right? Yeah. It's making yourself vulnerable to attacks. And I think that was the tough part, but at the same time, it's ultimately what contributed to refining the Pro to the point that it is at today. And then the last point I'll just add there is, you know, a lot of people have been giving us heat as well over, you know, why is it taking so long? By the time this product launches, it'll have been 3 years. It will be delivered just before Christmas. And I remember you unveiled it to the team at the Christmas party. So it'll have been almost 3 years since we started working on this product, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. But again, I hope that this just communicates to the audience that we're not rushing this. We're not really in a hurry to launch this product, because we think that it's going to be one of the best products for the years to come. And that's why it's designed as thoughtfully as it is, to make it future-proof, right? So choices like the dot display. So let's go there. Why the dot display? Why a controversial choice like the dot display?
So at first we weren't going to put any display on the scooter, and I was like very firm on my idea that the phone is good enough. I still believe it. But yeah, through posting video on YouTube like we did, well, there was a lot of feedback. Maybe 20% of all the comments were, why is there no display on that scooter? At this price, there should be a display included. I don't want to always put my phone on the scooter because, well, it's my phone and that's my scooter, and it should just be included. When it's going to rain, my phone's going to be wet, which is fair. The phone holder, is it going to be really good enough, or the phone's going to drop and break it? I don't want to put the $2,000 phone on a $4,000 product. What happened if I crash with it? You know, there's a lot of different scenarios that I understand. I broke my phone on the V3 before we had our great quad lock phone holder.
And then we got a phone holder plus display after that, right?
Yes. So after that, we decided to invest in a display. And it was very hard to do because we needed to redesign the whole electronic of this the scooter. When you don't plan at the beginning, that's one of the hard things we learned. In the iteration process, you need to make your requirement very clear from the beginning, because trying to backtrack and reinvent a PCB that's going to fit the display and connect all the components to it, it's very hard. So why a dot display? That's what they use for traffic lights. And the old traffic light, it was one light, either all green, all yellow, all red, and you had some with arrows. And they are changing all of them to traffic light with a dot inside, because you can see it from any angle and there's no reflection on it. And it's the same thing that VanMoof did, like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. They have dot display on the frame. I think it's very elegant. It's simple, it's clean. And For them, it's CNC'd on the actual frame. So we wanted the same type of feeling, and I didn't want a display that was going to be too complex. For me, you need to see the speed, your battery, things like error code, the turning signals when they're activated, and that's pretty much it. For all the remaining features, well, you can connect again to the app, and the app is getting better and better. Soon it's going to be connecting automatically to the scooter. It's going to be a very smooth experience. But yeah, so I just wanted a basic display with big, clear numbers that's going to allow us to iterate in the future from this. If we look at the Phantom display or all the other displays on all the other scooters, they are burnt. It's a PCB with a fixed patterns of letters, icon. You cannot...
Like on a car.
Yeah, like a car. When you put it on accessory and you see all the light come on, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly how it is on all our other scooters. So obviously with your car, you cannot push an update and all the UI change. You can if you have like a Tesla with a nice display, but for all the other cars, it's burnt into the dashboard. With the dot display, we can push an update and introduce new, like we put the Easter egg in the display when you go over a certain speed. You can just do whatever you want because you can configure it on your laptop on the back end and push that update to all the customers. So it's nice that if we see a new display from our competitors, or if like someone in the company have a new idea, or if we receive some feedback from the beta tester, you can just push an update and the display is a new experience. And I think that's pretty important. And lastly, we couldn't do a gigantic display because we have a wireless phone holder built in the handlebar as well with a Bluetooth speaker. So we needed to make some choice on the size as well like this. But I would have to say that I think we have one of the biggest digit on a display from the whole industry. The display itself it's pretty big, what you see in terms of relevant information.
Yeah, and I think you touched on the key notion there, which is feeling, right? At the end of the day, if you're going 19 miles per hour or 20 and a half, it doesn't really matter. It's just about, do you feel how fast you're going? And that's why I think the dot display very much leans into the simple, basic, intuitive experience, so that you're really focused on the experience of writing, not so much analyzing all the different little numbers and information that's becoming available on the display. Like I think a lot of our competitors are going in the direction of having a full-on cockpit with like 70 different inputs and then, 17 different alarms. And before you know it, you're basically just looking at a computer screen. And if you want that experience, great, just open the freaking app. That's exactly what it's for. You have this high quality display with way more information than is necessary, frankly. But if you want that simple, intuitive experience, we have the perfect dot display. So I think it worked out really, really beautifully because it caters to both. Next controversial choice, drum brakes.
Yes, so
Why drum brakes?
why drum brakes? Before we only had disc brake, except for the city 2020 and 2021. And that's by far one of this, and flat tires are by far one of the biggest pain point for customer in their experience. People are going to receive the scooter with a flat tire, or it's just not going to be inflated properly. They're going to ride the scooter, it's going to cause a flat tire, or they're going to receive the scooter, the disc is going to be a little bit bent, or the caliper out of adjustment. And that's one of the things that you cannot control at the factory, because even if they adjust it perfectly, the UPS, FedEx are so rough with those boxes that it's very easy for the caliper to shift. If there's an impact on the side, the styrofoam, even if you put styrofoam water on it, is going to press against the caliper and just move it out of adjustment. And when you buy big scooters like, I don't know, the NAMI, you can expect customers, that kind of customer to be able to adjust brakes. But when you have people buying, let's say the Air or like small scooters, they won't adjust the brake. They just want a refund right away, or they want to get it adjusted. You don't have a servicing center in that area. So we decided for all our model, we're going to remove that by, putting self-healing tires, tubeless tires on our model, but also putting drum brakes. And it came at the same time that we were able to do really great regen on our models with the throttles, but also couple it with the brake handle that now we have 3 wires. Again, we explained it 1,000 times. We have a video dedicated just for regen brake. But basically, we can couple the movement that you're making, the pressure that you're putting on the handle brake, it's directly linked to the amount of regen that is being applied by the motors. So that means that I could remove both brake cables from the brake handle. They're not even connected. And I could still brake with the brake handle, and it would feel just as if I had brake, because it's mimicking disc brake or just mechanical brake. So yes, and for me, if you can lock both wheels with your brake handle, that's good enough. You can lock the wheel with disc or drum. The result's going to be the same. It's going to depend on the traction that you have with your motor on the pavement, with your tire on the pavement. So yeah, to me, drum brakes are the future. And the big point too is that, well, they cannot get bent during shipping. They are weatherproof pretty much. There is no dust, sand, or water that's going to get in and pollute the drum, the brake pads like it is on with this brake. And yeah, and they last so much longer. The thickness of the brake pads themselves is crazy.
And I'm sure we're going to get somebody in the comments who's going to say, but mountain bikes have always used hydraulic brakes and therefore they're amazing. And same with motorcycles. And we're in no way implying that hydraulic brakes and disc brakes are inferior. From a technical point of view, they are superior, more effective when it comes to braking. But I think what we learned by launching the city with Regen, like Eloi said, is that mechanical brakes just become irrelevant essentially to our scooters because you use them 90% less. And that was direct feedback from our customers that clearly told us, we don't really care what the handle does, what kind of force it applies and where, because we just don't use it unless it's an emergency. So in an emergency, your drum brakes are going to be perfectly sufficient. But 90% of the time, you're going to end up braking with the Regen. And it not only essentially renders the mechanical brakes useless, but it just changes the experience completely, right? It goes from kind of a jerky, mechanical, difficult experience when you brake to an incredibly smooth and controlled and actually quite productive experience too, because you're recharging the battery at the same time. I think our main competitor, the Segway GT2, just recently released a pretty cool graphic where they measured all kinds of recharge capabilities of the scooter. And so we should do something similar because it does extend the battery range dramatically when using the Regen brake. So last but not least, how about the suspension? Tell us more about the unique two-type suspension choice of Pro.
So we tried a lot of different things for the Pro. On the V1, we had just a regular spring suspension that we exploded. I exploded, had to walk back home. After that, we switched to a hydraulic barrel without any adjustment. It was just hydraulic with a preset load on it. And then we realized when this scooter is designed for 330 pounds, when we had heavier riders stepping on the scooter, they were bottoming out that suspension right away. So it's defeating the whole purpose. The scooter should be able to adjust to the range of weight we are advertising. So we wanted to add a suspension like the one we have now with D&M, that you have an adjustment that you can make it tighter or looser. But basically that's going to fit the profile of the user that's going to be on it. So at the end, we decided to go with D&M in the front. That's what every high-end scooters, bicycle are using. It's a great supplier, and that's the easy part. The obvious part at the back and at the front and at the back, we have the rubber suspension, which everyone is asking why. There's a couple reasons. The first one is I really wanted a sleek design, as everybody can see on the scooter. It's pretty obvious. And to do this, well, you need to make some concession, and having a spring at the back was one of them. And for some people, it's a concession. For other people, that's what they prefer. The Pro, with the latest update, has a lot of torque and not sagging when you accelerate, meaning that the whole scooter is going to go down as you move forward. That's a unique feeling with the rubber suspension. With the spring, it's much looser. And it's something that, for example, you were feeling less on the Phantom because you have 4 springs, so there's more resistance to go down compared to the Ghost that you only have 2. But rubber is really something else. It's minimal maintenance as well because there's no moving part. It's just a rubber compressing. You can still adjust it. We have 6 screws under it that's going to push a plate when you tighten it, or push a plate up or down if you want to have it stiffer or not. And lastly, to make the motor, all the cables invisible, well, with rubber, I was able to pass it inside the rubber, which with a spring would have been completely different.
And I think maybe the last point to add there is that we're the only scooter with 12-inch tires, which also improves the comfort while riding. So it takes less pressure off the, exactly, takes pressure off the suspension. So overall, I think the scooter turned out beautiful. Comfort-wise, how does it feel?
It's a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic, and a lot of it has to do with the big tires. It's just something you cannot get even with four spring like 10 inch, the 12 inch. The reason I mentioned no sagging, the minimal.
And so for someone who's tested a bunch of scooters,
the overall feeling
would you,
of the scooter,
knowing what
I
they
think
feel
it
like,
contributes
would you,
a lot
if
to
you
that
could do the Pro all
riding
over again,
experience that
hydraulic
the Pro
suspension on the back?
offers. So I would keep it the exact same.
And are you already thinking about a V2 for the Pro?
Yes, but it's not clear to me. Yes, because this one is so good. It's not sure. Like usually we just go higher performance. This one is already so great. Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna come with new technologies, but so far this one is the first one with crazy regen like this. It's the only one with a quad lock wireless charger built in. The only one with the controller sticking out with built-in IoT, the GPS with the accelerometer.
And like you just said, it's kind of built to be future-proof too, right? So, fair enough. All right, so what was the most satisfying part of the whole development process?
The most satisfying part, I think, as someone who makes product, is to receive those samples. That's what I'm always gonna remember when we get the box. You know, you, me, Chris, we're all excited to unbox it. It's always an event, you know. So I remember when we received every one of them. The V1. The V1 was the one that was the most
With the champagne.
with the champagne. Yes, in my apartment on the third floor with my sketchy stairs going up. Getting the sample, opening it, and then making like a feedback document to talk with the engineers and the factory. I love making those, and writing it. It's finally you confirm, or if you were right or wrong about making those type of changes. Does it feel better? Does it handle better? So that's always great to see. And on the Pro, all the parts are customs, pretty much, except the brake handle. So all of them are their own product. So every time you get a new sample, well, it's equipped with a new product, so you can test that new product, and that's just fantastic. On that scooter, we have 150 different products, so there's a lot of things to test, and I love doing that.
Now, what about the most difficult part of the process? What did you struggle with the most?
The folding mechanism is one of them. We tried a lot of different ones until we achieved this one, which was perfect. So yeah, definitely folding mechanism. And I knew that it was something we're going to be able to, once we crack it for one model, we crack it for all models. So we really put a lot of time and effort on it. It was not perfect until the V5 of the Pro. And even on the V5, we needed to twitch a couple things on the stem with the weld to really make it last the 300,000 cycle that we're doing for the stem. The lights were so hard to achieve on the Pro. We needed to develop our own light box, which is an external module that's going to power those crazy lights. And then you throw a wrench in the gears I wanted to change all the colors, so all the interaction when you brake, well, that changed because usually it's white and when you brake it's red, but now it's pink and when you brake it's purple, you know. So there's a lot of rooms for bugs when you do this. And lastly, the diffuser that we have over it. It looks so simple, right? A simple diffuser, which all the lights around us have. And for some reason, for us, it took something like 21 iteration before we get the right one. And it's really on the V6, on the Pro Beta that the factory was keeping it a surprise for me when like we were basically going there a day before they shared that new diffuser. That was very hard. And the last one would obviously be the IoT. The IoT was... I was not expecting that. I knew that it was hard to do because we met with so many companies that do IoT. I usually do IoT for sharing companies like Bird, Lime. So they have the ugly box on the stem sticking out, and they are charging hundreds of thousands of dollars to make you a custom PCB. And we didn't want to do that because, well, quite frankly, we couldn't afford it. That's a big one. And no, we always go directly to the supplier. So we found a partner, and when you find them, then you need to integrate the whole communication protocol with the Mac 2 controller, and that was very hard to do until right now. We are still like integrating the kill switch in it. There's always things to improve with IoT, and right now we are at a really good spot with it, but that was very, very hard. Like we mentioned before, we didn't want an IoT that would stick out. I don't want something that people can see and just remove. And if I like change the suspension of the scooter for the design, imagine the IoT, like there's no way I'm gonna have an ugly box sticking out. So to integrate it in the deck, surrounded by metal that you step over it, and no company wanted to do it at first because it's not gonna work. Like,
Pretty consistent theme. Nobody wanted to.
yeah, so everybody think it's impossible. But we were able to find a way to make it work, and we have the latest tech in IoT because of this with our Wi-Fi IP address screening, the triangulation. So that was also very hard.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is quite interesting because a lot of these technologies were quite widespread in shared scooters, but at no point were they ever optimizing for design and experience. It was very functional and robust and reliable, and that worked for that segment. In our business of privately owned scooters, we were always focused on design and user experience. So the moment we tried to incorporate some of these features, it was very difficult to find anybody who was willing to actually take that challenge on because, like you just said, the IoT, the folding mechanism, right? Like if you think about sharing scooters, most of them just don't fold, period, right? And so there isn't really even the consideration of having or not having a folding mechanism. And now we're talking about how do we make it aesthetic, how do we make it functional, but also how do we make it last almost as long as the shared scooters, right? So I think it was a lot of firsts in that sense.
And also the costs associated with those, with the sharing market. Surprisingly, the sharing scooters are extremely expensive. For a scooter with the spec of a Xiaomi M365, you're gonna pay $900 at the cost of the factory, just because it needs to be so solid. And so it's the same thing for IoT. They don't care to necessarily pay a premium for the backend of the IoT or the module itself because they know they're going to be able to generate that revenue. But for us, it wouldn't make sense to pay $40 per month per user for the IoT when we probably going to be end up charging $10 or $15 for it. So we had to create the whole infrastructure of the IoT backend ourselves as well, which was and is still very typical.
In the works, yeah. So we've talked a lot about the features that make the Pro unique. We've talked a lot about what the process of bringing it to life was like. I think you've alluded a few times to the different testing protocols that we stuck to that were also a first, and we will have a dedicated video that speaks to the testing rig and how we really approached it. But tell me more about the big picture here, right? So we've talked about Pro at length. Why are we starting with a product as complicated as this, and what is the significance of this product for the rest of the Apple portfolio?
I think for me, it always made sense to start with the big product and then work your way down rather than the opposite. You prove that you can do outstanding quality and experience. And then when you're going to be releasing cheaper models, well, it's a lot easier to bring that quality down to them than trying to do the opposite. If Xiaomi was trying to make that scooter, it would be just a big, cheap Xiaomi, in my opinion. But if we try to make a Xiaomi based on the Pro, well, that's going to be an incredible Xiaomi. So what does it mean? Well, our goal is to have 1 billion kilometers by 2030, right? And we need to have really strong scooters to be able to achieve this. And that's why we test all of them. We certified them basically on our testing protocols for 10,000 kilometers. And the Pro is a perfect example of this. And like Matt just said, we're going to share a video showing how we test those. But yes, we do those scooters in the hope that they're going to last, that they're going to help us achieve that 1 billion kilometer, because that is our North Star. Basically, if we achieve that amount of kilometers, well, that means that, well, we grew successfully as a company. It means that our products are being used every day. Log into the app every day because we can track those kilometers. It means that our QC is fantastic because those products last that long. And also that we just make cool product that people believe and they're going to use every day. So that's what it means for the future of this company. And the Pro is a statement of what we are able to achieve with our limited resource, small team. So growing from this with more team member, more experience, it's going to be fantastic for the experience and the lights.
Yeah, well said. And I wanted to add one more thing, which is a lot of scooter companies see themselves as a vehicle that complements somebody else's commute. So maybe it's a scooter you throw on the trunk, maybe it's a scooter you bring on the bus, and then just, you connect that last 2-3 kilometers on the scooter. We see our scooters as car replacements, as bus replacements, right? So that's where that notion of putting 1 billion kilometers on our vehicles by 2030 comes from. It's because we not only see our products as something you can use on a daily basis, but also something that's going to last for nearly as long as any other, road certified vehicle would.
Vehicle grade.
Vehicle grade scooters, exactly. So again, that presented a whole array of engineering challenges when we tried to design components that would actually last for that amount of repetitions, because as you just said, to test something for 10,000 kilometers is nearly triple the industry standard, right? So the industry expects that a scooter would last on average for 3,000 kilometers max, right? We're taking the benchmark of, let's say, a moped or a bicycle, and we're trying to make our scooters last for that long, which is part of the reason why it took such a long time, because again, we wanted to go through 6 iterations to make sure that we get there.
And doing 10,000 kilometers on a rig,
It takes time. Yeah.
It only takes months to do.
Yeah. Not to mention the kind of politics involved in convincing the factory to let us use their rigs for as long as that, right? Because there are other players at the factory that also want to be able to test their scooters, but we basically monopolize them for months. So tell me, what have you not shared about the Pro yet? What secrets have you not revealed?
Well, some of you might have seen there's a signature of everyone that worked on it under the grip tape. I think that's pretty funny. There's a Easter egg in the app. If you try to change the Ludo speed now, we have a funny little GIF popping up. In the display itself, when you exceed 100 kilometers an hour, because the scooter is in the air, spinning freely, there's a meme to that appear on the display, a little funny like a emoji. What else we didn't share?
Sounds like you had a bit of fun with the, especially with the app side of things.
Yes, with the app, and again, that's just allowing us to do so many funny things like this, having control over those components. What we didn't share?
That's where you play the cricket sounds in.
I think showing the iteration from V1 to V6, we shared everything we could possibly share. And yeah, if people really want to see all the little details, go see those videos. They are 30-minute each, so you have 3 hours to watch iterations.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, and for anybody who I suppose hasn't seen the previous versions, it's important that you understand, as Eloi just mentioned, why we invested in the Pro, why we started at the top end of the portfolio, why we are working towards 3 scooters and nothing more. We are ultimately envisioning a future where we have 3 amazing products: the Pro, the Explorer, and the Lite, that allow us to meet the needs and exceed the needs of pretty much every rider in the market. And ultimately, we are well on our way to executing on that. We expect to have all 3 products available in the market by next season. We just got the latest live prototype. We actually unveiled it to the team today, and it's fantastic. So we're excited to share more about that first prototype with you soon. Probably July and August, the first walkthrough will drop, so stay tuned for that. But at a high level, we made a lot of controversial decisions with this lineup. IoT, not conventional in our space. We're focusing on weight and robustness and durability, as we just explained, because we see ourselves as car replacements, as vehicle replacements, not as vehicle complements. And last but not least, we do see a future where owning the controller, we're owning the app and the software, we're owning the scooter and all the little parts that go into it, actually becomes a massive advantage for us, because to your point, it just allows us to go that extra step when anybody else would be limited by working with a specific supplier. We're able to demand more because we control the entire supply chain of the scooter. So it's both a massive investment and risk kind of upfront, but once you actually have a finished product, it presents an incredible opportunity to deliver more value to customers as a result of just having full ownership over the process. So, the last 2 questions. What accessories are you making for the Pro?
So we made a seat that we showed in one of the video, a really cool seat. The comments about it was polarizing. We made a V2 of the seat and a V3 of the seat and a V4. So it's going to be better, I guess, for people. I did like the V1 a lot, and I'm still using it. The V4 is going to be more conventional, I guess, in terms of design, less straight edges on it. But yeah, there's going to be a seat for it. Today we finalized like a whole enclosure for the Pro. I still need to show you it. Maybe that, I don't know. It does look cool.
What's an enclosure? Just for
An enclosure would be a, how do we say that? Weatherproof body that you add on the scooter to ride it when it's raining or not. And to do, there's different scenarios that it was made for food delivery or just if you don't want to get wet going to work. The scooter is IP66, so, but you're not, right? You're gonna get wet, it's annoying. So I think that full protection could be quite nice. So
let us know what you think about that.
let us know, yeah. I can sure we can post renders and get people's opinion on it. We made a custom lock as well. We got the first prototypes here at the office, and when we went to China, we met with those suppliers to give the second round of feedback. But it's going to be a lock that's going to be enclosed in a box, and it's going to be a big cable that comes out of the box, and you can, well, wrap it around a pole and lock it back in the box, and you have the combination code directly on it. And it's being secured on the stem of the scooter with special screws. You need a special tool to undo it, so thief won't come with Allen keys and remove it. That's pretty cool, and it was just very inconvenient for me to always carry a lock in my backpack.
Yeah.
Having it attached to the scooter makes a lot more sense. One of the biggest pain point with scooters, and it's a question we got about the Explorer when we released a walkthrough, is where do I attach the lock? You know, with all sleek lines like this. On the Pro, there's a lot of space. You can put it on the rear footrest, you can put it on the rear suspension. It's quite huge. But on the Explorer, everything is tight and neat. So having it attached to the stem from the start, well, you don't need to worry about that. It's just going right back into the box. So that's going to be one of the accessory, and it's a retractable cable, just to be clear. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this lock. And having to carry keys for your lock, well, it's inconvenient. If you lose it, it's a pain. Before we had the lock that was fingerprint from Xiaomi, the great Xiaomi, right? And well, it just stopped working. It died on us. We didn't have the keys, so we were cutting it in his garage with a small Dremel. We broke the Dremel, and we just ended up with a hammer on the floor. It
was a good lock.
Yeah, it was a good lock, but not a good fingerprint reader.
No.
Or didn't have a good battery life.
And why would anyone need a lock if all the IoT, security features are present on the scooter?
So the IoT is great for 90% of the scenarios. And so we have IoT. We have like a built-in alarm with the speaker. IoT is going to help you track it. The alarm is, if someone touch it, it's going to scream. We have electromagnetic lock on the motor themselves, and it's dual 1200 watt motor. So the resistance that you get from those two motors, well, it's a lot greater than a single 250 watt motor, for example. It's real brakes. And lastly, we also have a bunch of sensors in it. So if someone, because you could just lift the scooter and run with it and the wheel wouldn't turn and the alarm wouldn't detect it, well, the accelerometer that we use in our controller is going to send you a notification on your phone to tell you, hey, someone is running with your scooter, and do you want to track it? Do you want to...
It's not easy to do, run with the scooter.
It's not easy because it's 90 pound. 30 pound lighter than Segway. And you can, and the last feature that we have is also the kill switch. You can, if, let's say someone steals your scooter and you can't retrieve it, there's a button that's going to make the scooter useless. You cannot turn it back on. So that's pretty cool. That person, I don't know, change the controller or something to try to bypass that. We're going to sit in our back end. We can just push back the same kill switch. So it's making the whole scooter useless, which make it in the first place stealing it useless as well.
Yeah.
So why do you need a lock? Well, if you don't have IoT, you need to subscribe to that service. And yeah, if you don't have IoT, if the person who steal it is a hacker and can bypass this, I don't know how, but or if you don't even want to get into that whole thing at the first place, right? You just want to lock it. Yeah, you want to prevent it. well, you have that lock that you can secure your scooter with. And just to be clear, it's going to be one lock that's going to come with all the different stem adapter to fit on all models. So I'm making this lock. It's not just for the Pro. It's going to be for all models. Some of them have IoT, some of them they don't. So that's the main reason why. So it is one of the most secure, if not the most secure scooter on the market on the privately owned space. And having that lock is just a nice addition to it. And the other thing we are doing is mirrors for the scooters. Again, we can show them on Facebook to our community, but having just nice mirrors, and they fit quite well with the product. They look sporty. You can adjust the angles, or like people can imagine. But yeah, you're gonna do mirrors, seat, lock,
All weather enclosure, maybe.
all weather enclosure maybe, and a rear basket to transport food or whatever for people that want to do food delivery. That's, I think, the best scooter to do food delivery. So yeah, and if there's any other accessory we didn't think about, well, let us know in the comment. And
For a lot of the accessories, they will be available when the scooter launches on Indiegogo, and we will use that as an opportunity to judge demand and interest. And if there's enough people who decide to buy those perks, we will then go ahead and open those models and make those accessories. If not, we'll refund those purchases. So let us know what you think. Last question. You spent 3 years of your life working on this scooter, arguably your life's work. Obviously, you were a different person when you started this project. You're someone who's much more experienced and understands a lot more about the industry today. How would you summarize this whole experience, this whole product in one sentence?
I think I came out to different individuals that V1 is different to the V6. I think it changed me drastically for the better. At least I think.
Conversation.
But yeah, it's been very hard. It's been very hard at first, like on the personal life, you invest your time so much, and we were like a lot more of we are still a startup, but at the beginning we're doing everything. We're doing the Pro at the same time of doing customer service and doing like shooting and everything. So it took so much time. So I lost things, I gained things, but overall it was a fantastic experience, and the amount of things we learned with the Pro by going to China, seeing those people well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see the amount of people that believe in us in the community. Again, in China, it's not just us, what sometimes it feels like. We have a whole community, a whole world that is following us and want this to succeed. And creating a product like this that can move people together is empowering. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it feels like in many ways you were a vessel for this unmet need. The world was demanding a scooter like this, and you sort of just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Obviously, put your heart and soul into this project. But like you just said, it's a product that we hope the world's been waiting for. It feels like we delivered on the expectations that were sky high, and now we just need the world's support to purchase enough volume and quantity so we can lower the price of the components and make the scooter even more affordable. But any final thoughts to share with the community before we wrap it up?
Whatever how this gonna turn out, the sales of that product, we made the whole industry better. That's for sure. By sharing the iteration process, by developing all the suppliers that we work with, this whole industry as a whole will be better after the Pro.
We set a higher standard. I like to think that too. So, in case you're not already aware, the Pro is launching on Indiegogo on July 12th. You can already head on over to Indiegogo today. We have a landing page up. You can sign up with your email. You will receive all kinds of notifications and emails about the Pro, about the kinds of deals that will be available. It's a scooter that, as everybody knows, it's expensive. But this is the one exception we will be making to offer it at a lower price, to encourage as many of you to participate, and also to say thank you for supporting us throughout this long journey. So head on over to Indiegogo, learn more about the deals, the launch, and we hope to see you on July 12th when we will do a live countdown to the launch and we'll make ourselves available to take any questions you might have about the product. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you all.
Thank you.